So carnivore, so let's go through the checklist. Let's do a proper scorecard. And I haven't even done this, so I'm doing it kind of live. I mean, I've got my framework, I've got an idea, but I've never actually added up numbers or done it like this. But let's say, okay, ultra processed food, sugar, okay, well, tick, because you're not taking sugar when you're doing carnivore. And then the second one is going to be the flours and processed grains. So they're going to get a check mark there. So industrial seed oils, they're going to get a check mark. Well,
Depends on what you cook your meat in, I guess.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I mean, it's obviously meat-based. Now, there's different levels of carnivore. So there's pure, like just nothing but meat.
And there's the olive oil people.
So technically, is olive oil then, is that carnivore? So it's hard to define 100%, but let's be generous and we'll give them a tick mark for the industrial seed oils, because I think it's definitely not animal-based. They're going to be into lard and tallow and the animal fats. So I'll give them a tick mark. And then for nutrient density, it's looking pretty good. Yeah. So it looks like it's scoring really high, but so for the nutrient density, actually, I'm going to give a half mark.
Okay.
So actually, funny enough, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm almost thinking of an X. So, okay, let me explain this. So no question, animal products are very nutrient dense, but they're lacking in certain nutrients as well. So there are a lot of components of plant-based, fruits and vegetables, and especially when you start to look at the microbiome, that it seems to help us a lot. Now again, you're going to find some people will do very well and even can't handle the plant-based, like especially if it's got severe autoimmune conditions or gut issues. Some people will thrive off a carnivore diet, and I know of a lot of people. But so people like that. So, but again, for the average person, do they really need to so if you take it to the extreme, are they saying that plant-based foods are poisonous and are bad for you? I mean, I would kind of criticize that as much as I would with the vegans, so I'd almost, they're both anti-something. So carnivore means that, well, plant-based is really bad for you. So that's where I would definitely, maybe kind of go a little bit against it. So again, some people will do really well on it. And again, the big thing is to watch what's happening, watch your blood markers, all these things, to see whether or not it's working for you. But on the whole, I would probably give a less of a mark for that. And I do think people could run into issues. Now, you could debate about this left, right, and center, but that's where I would go, look, some people may thrive off it. I think for the average person, it's pretty extreme. And I do think they could be lacking in a lot of nutrients and some health, especially short term. I think people could do very well on it. Quality of food is going to be a big factor. If you can get grass-fed, pasture-raised, is going to be important if that's all you're going to eat. So you don't want to start consuming really. So that's another big caveat.
When you start adding in organ meats, do you think differently about the nutrient density?
Well, nutrient density, no question, will be really high when you do it. But like I said, not all nutrients. I do think you can be lacking in some nutrients, and especially when you start to look at the microbiome and things like that. So arguably, you could say, well, some diets are closer to carnivore or even keto, like in traditional diets. So when they look at the Eskimos or whatever, because they don't have any vegetation that grows because they're up in the Antarctic or whatever. So that, could be a case. But then there's other natural diets that are 90% plant-based and,
eat
sweet potatoes, and can thrive. So, so it's one of those things, but I think it's very restrictive for the average person. Now, just for a matter of interest, I think Paul Saladino is putting out great information, and it's funny because he eats fruit and I
honey.
think eggs.
He loves honey.
And honey. So I don't know whether he's known as the kind of carnivore guy, but I don't.
Taking a step back a little bit.
So so then it's something maybe a little bit different, but anyway, I think that's probably enough for the carnivore. I mean, again, I'm not anti any of these things, but looking through that lens, I would definitely have a couple of little question marks, but in some areas, I think it scores highly.